So I have a package. Finally, I know that all of us are extremely frustrated about the length of international mail packaging right now. Trust me, I am watching all of my decks that are going off internationally with bated breath, as it is taking a long time. I also have been on the receiving end of this. I purchased this deck on March, well, it had them before March 27th because it was posted to, the creator posted it on March 27th, and it is May 20th. And it's definitely the longest time it has taken anything to come to me internationally. And yeah, you know me, I am not patient, but I've had to learn the art of patience. So I purchased this deck because I have been looking everywhere for an ocean themed deck. I don't mean an ocean animal deck, but just like water and oceans for me are about healing and depths and grief work and all kinds of things. And I just haven't found an ocean themed deck that really resonated with me. And so I did find this deck that I wanted to give a try. It was from Australia. She has a nice little note in here. Big thanks for your order. Hope you enjoy the deck. Stay safe and healthy in this bizarre times. And then I think it has one of her cards, which is number 28, Pebble, Remembrance. So she has that there. So, and then it's in a big organza bag and wrapped up in bubble wrap. And it's called the Ocean Oracle Story Messages Remembrance, it says. She has, of course, blue bubble wrap, which I do like those little things. I could not find blue. I usually on my decks like to use black bubble wrap. Couldn't get it in all of this craziness. Oh, look, it's like a little, I would say like a clay ornament, and it is in the shape of a shell and says home, which is so sweet. A little addition there. And then here is the deck. It is by Susan Mart. I don't know if it's just Mart or Marta, but I'm guessing Mart maybe. Again, this is from Australia, and these are photographs that she took from the ocean around her. It says, what wisdom does the ocean wave have, or the ocean have for you? The 45 card Ocean Oracle uses the power and wisdom of story and messages to help with remembrance. I mean, that's like perfect for me. This deck is subtle in its delivery but profound in its ability to offer support and guidance. This deck offers the tangible aspects of the ocean with our intangible remembrance of connection. Oh, that sounds perfect, doesn't it? So I thought, since I have been waiting so long for this, I probably ordered this on my son's birthday because it was, well, maybe around my son's birthday for sure. Okay, let me get, so you don't, I don't normally open like the packages like I just did there for my walkthroughs, but I was so excited to get it after all of this wait. And I know people in Australia are always having to wait this much. I mean, this was the longest journey I've ever had a deck take to get to me, but as to where everybody's at, and I have great sympathy because I've been doing the same thing. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit closer. It's in a tuck box. I think this has gone through a couple of iterations, but this version is in a tuck box. It has a little white book. So to speak, a little blue book. Oof, definitely will have to get my glasses, so let's hold the line for me to find said glasses. Okay, definitely small, but she's trying to, and I can see fine with my glasses. I do like, I don't know if you can tell, but there are like blue sort of key for the title and things of that nature. It's nice silky paper, so it feels really nice. I love that we have a list of the cards with their basic meanings. I love little things like that. So we have about the author, After 15 years of living too far from the ocean, we packed up our lives and moved to Coffs Harbor, NSW, where I work as a Bowen therapist and artist. I love being closer to the sea, and I am still awed every day by the beauty of this place. The idea of the ocean oracle came to me a few years ago, and it was an aha moment I was so grateful I paid attention to. So I believe these pictures are photographs that she has taken around that area. How to use the deck, single card reading, a 3-card past, present, future, or situational, or remembrance spread, and a 5-card wisdom spread. Then over here we have a list of the cards and their meanings, which are on the cards themselves, as well as a reminder that they're in numerical order starting on the next page. So the card has the number, what is the key element that's in there being focused on, and what that keyword is, which I quite love. And then you can go and get something a little bit longer about it. So let's just check out the sand dollar. Zoom in here a little bit. Whoops, not zoom out. Just so you can get an idea of what text is there. So we have sand dollar, feminine wisdom. She walked the beach wondering what she was going to do. She was being asked to do something which was incongruent with her heart, although in her head the request seemed reasonable. She was struggling with the disparity between her heart and head and was unclear of which to trust. Her thoughts were brought back to the now as she noticed something half buried in the sand. She stopped to uncover what lay beneath, a perfectly formed sand dollar. She held it in her hand, drawn to the intricate pattern of the 5-pointed star. She remembered reading that the sand dollar was symbolic in the Christian faith, but she also remembered that it was symbolic of the feminine. Could it be symbolic of both and serve both equally? I would say yes. So much of the feminine had been disgraced by the church. What was the church scared of? What did they fear of the feminine? For that matter, what did she fear of her current situation? She realized the answer to her question lay in returning to the feminine aspects of intuition and clarity and sacred heart space. She felt if she remained in her heart, her path would become clear and the answer to her question would present itself. As she held the sand dollar, she realized that it represented all the feminine wisdom available from all the ages. She needed to trust in the power and wisdom of the divine feminine to guide her in her journey. Are you being asked to, then there's a message. Are you being asked to trust your head over your heart? Trust the delicate and intricate details which surround you and nourish your soul. Are you too much in your head? Shift your focus to your heart and embrace the power of the feminine. Go deep within yourself to find what the symbolism of the feminine means to you. Is there fear in the space? If so, what is feeding that fear? The sand dollar reminds you of the abundance and feminine wisdom. You're able to tap into the energy and resources of the divine feminine. Quiet the mind and still the heart to open to answers which are formed from the intuitive parts of you. And so that's what we have there. Basically like a story for each. I love that. And then a message. And you have that for each one. I love that the sand dollar was the top card. My son loves all living things, and we were on a vacation with family friends in Florida, and we were on the beaches, and one of the nights we were kind of sitting back, my son and I were sitting back while everybody was kind of running around at the edge of the ocean, and they all came up and they had found a bunch of sand dollars, but they were living sand dollars. They weren't dried up on the beach. They were in the waters, and they came running with them. They were so excited about them. And my son, who is quite slight and not a confrontational person by nature, he came up sort of with the glory of an avenging angel, and all of his being was infused with righteous, holy literally rage that they had collected these living creatures who couldn't, were meant to be in the water, and demanded that they put them all back. They had to kind of slink off to the edge of the ocean and put the sand dollars back into the water, because he was horrified at them being pulled out of there. Now, it's one thing, again, to find them on the sand already washed up, but that is a favorite memory of mine, of seeing those moments of righteous anger in my son. So, of course, that's a message in and of itself, to open up and find that at the front. So remember that feminine wisdom and feminine divinity is not just for females. It is just an aspect in all of us. So I just had to share that. So let's go ahead and look at the cards. Well, let's look at the back. The back just has the Ocean Oracle. My preference would be no titles. I don't really like text on the backs of cards. Just this beautiful ocean water all by itself would have been perfection to me, but it's not at all obnoxious, and so I am certainly not going to complain about that. And then on the front, you can see we have the image here. I think they all, so they all have the same sort of thin frame around it. You have the number, the main focus. So for example, 2 and kelp, the image of the kelp, and then the keyword. I would love to have seen the images even fill the card up even more, but it is really pleasing. It's very balanced. I actually kind of like the use of white space here. I like the little wave symbols here, and I like the font that is picked. It's quite easy for me to read, and it looks really nice. So I think it's very balanced and pleasing looking, even though I would love to see that image really stand out even bigger. But those are just, I knew what it looked like when I purchased it, and I was happy with what it looked like. So, sand dollar, feminine wisdom. We have kelp for strength, which I love that. Again, I'm really looking forward to looking at the story, the diver getting tangled up in the kelp, and how scary and strong that kelp can apparently be. The message is draw strength from a solid anchor. Follow your thoughts, your travels, your life back to the base where you gather strength. I love that. So I'm really looking forward to, I think that you wouldn't need to look at the guidebook, because you have your connotations to the things that are there, and you have a nice keyword right there. But I love that this looks intriguing to me. It looks like that's going to be a lot of fun to see where those messages are and what her stories are as well. So I think it's a nice blend of usable without any keyword, just to kind of have your own messages, but then also have that little bit to dive into. So love it there. So we have strength, the lighthouse for clarity, and I love this. Again, I really was looking for something that were things connected to the ocean, but weren't just ocean animals or something like that. And lighthouses are, I grew up by a lighthouse, my sacred space with healing, and right now with my ancestral space has an image of the lighthouse that I grew up by, and so that means a lot to me, and so I love to have something like that included. So we have clarity. We have the sandbar for drifting, and this is so, you can drift onto a sandbar. Sometimes the sandbar separates portions of water. So there's a lot of different ways, and running out onto a sandbar, has a lot of childhood memories for me. So there's just a lot that I think you can do with that imagery there. So I love it. The waves for cycles, the beautiful image of a wave, but beautiful image that, it's a type of image people paint over and over again in different medias, and it's just gorgeous. I absolutely love it. The cycles, and that, the waves are coming in and then the waves are pulling out, and this is a rhythm and a cycle of the ocean, and it reflects the cycles in life. Love it. Here we have little Sandpiper for persistence. There is, if you have Disney Plus, I'm not saying that you need to get Disney Plus. I love it, but if you have it, there is a little short film on they have Pixar does those little shorts that I love so much, and there is one on a little Sandpiper that is adorable. And you must watch it if you have Disney Plus. You might be able to just Google it. They might even have it on YouTube. I don't know, but I love that. Persistence. The shoreline of eternal grace. I just love the term eternal grace. You know, if you watch my channel, that I speak a lot about grace and having grace for ourselves and grace for others. So I love, come with me on a walk along the shore. Feel the sand beneath your feet, massaging your toes as you wander along. Feel the grains, imagine how they got there, the process they went there, to be there, walked upon by you. Smell the sea air, fill your lungs with fresh scent of salt and air and water. Feel yourself breathe in the smell which mixes with the water in your own body. Melt into the knowledge that we are all one. I love this. Really beautifully message, and it talks about looking for trouble that's not there, different ways in which you might have to remind yourself to have grace, and that there is grace out there for you, and to have grace for self and others. So love that. Fairy tale sandcastles, absolutely love. I mean, look at that. That's so awesome. I love it. I have a poem actually about a sandcastle, sort of fairy tales and sandcastles, and the loss of illusions and then the regaining of illusions. If I can find it, maybe I'll stick it up somewhere. But again, see, all of these things have really strong resonance, and I have my own stories with them, and that's what I was looking for in an ocean deck, and I love it. Here's a jetty for gratitude. Again, I mean, I love jetties, and there was one right by where I grew up. Not on the ocean, it was on a lake, Lake Erie, so one of the Great Lakes, but still similar connections there. She'd been lost at sea, a storm was blowing her off course, the fog was settled in. She spotted the jetty which would guide her entry into the safe harbor. Love it. A buoy, salvation. Oh my goodness, there's a movie about a girl who is stuck out on a, it's very scary, but there's sharks in the water, and she's stuck out on a buoy forever trying to get into land and not get eaten by a shark. But they also they show you where the deep water is, and that if you're coming, if you've gone too far out, we've all done this if we grow up around water, where we swum out a little bit too far and you start to have that panic moment. But in the lake where I grew up, and also in a lot of these places, that buoy kind of would represent, you know, if you can get inward from that buoy, it's going to start getting shallower, you're getting close to the shoreline. So I quite love that. Jellyfish, hidden gifts, beautiful. I know I can't tell a story about every single thing. We'll be here forever. Shark, looking for opportunity for sure. The whale for reemergence. I love that. That's a gorgeous picture. Starfish for regeneration. It's amazing. A horseshoe crab. Those are amazing to find. Inspiration. I love some of these are actual stories, like Once Upon a Time, the shark one. Once upon a time in the watery depths of a great ocean, long ago forgotten, there lived a community of sea creatures. So it's like a little, I just love it. I'm really excited to sink into this. I'm really excited to have, you know, my own connotations, but then to sink into this concept of what were the stories that the ocean told Susan, and how could that lend something to the messages that I find as well. Octopus, all-encompassing. Octopus is my sort of animal of the year that I'm really sinking into, so I love that there's an octopus card. Sand dune for regroup. That is interesting. Sort of an opportunity to regroup yourself. Shifting sands of time. He often thought of that phrase. What are you being asked to change? Can you regroup or shift to accommodate the changes without losing your form and/or integrity? Interesting. Boardwalk, Avoidance. How interesting is that? So, you know, you have the keyword here. You have the story, but you could go right to the message to sort of, if you just want to get an idea, what are you avoiding in your life? What is it that you'd rather not look at? Do not let the fear of getting your feet wet keep you from reaching in new directions. Don't stay up on the boardwalk. Get down into the sand. Get down into the sand and get that next to the water or into the water itself. Don't take the easy path. I quite like that. High tide for abundance. Love it. Low tide for reevaluation. It can look very different. Things can look different at low tide than they do at high tide. Honeysuckle. So we even have some plants that would grow around the ocean here. And here we have secrets. What secrets do you hold? How do you perceive them? You are who you are. Is there a need to hide any of that? What keeps you from your truth? Do secrets set you free or bind you? Interesting, interesting. Sea urchin for truth. The truth of that moment when you step on a sea urchin. And have to have somebody pee on your foot for the pain of it, right? I have been around in which some that has happened and somebody did do that. See, not me, but I would have. Sea urchin for truth. Clam for flexibility. Oyster for luminosity with the pearl inside. Rosa rugosa for integrity. I know nothing of this plant. I'll have to look it up. She was in the maze, a place with acres upon acres of paths cut into the Rosa rugosa. Blackberry, bayberry, and honeysuckle, which grew wild in the bushland above the sea. Oh, I love it. I really love these little stories. Is your integrity being challenged? Is there a thorn in your side? Something to keep your focus off the path before you. Go into your heart and pick your path. Have the integrity to follow through, but know that other paths may open up. Love it. Lateral thinking, that you see the crabs running sideways. Love that. Masculine wisdom. So I love it, and I love there's a seahorse. I am enamored. I have been enamored of seahorses my whole life. And you think of the seahorses with their masculine, and yet they are the ones that carry their babies. So I do love that we have a masculine and a feminine wisdom. Thank you very much, Susan. The pebble one that we saw for remembrance. I love this. Sifting through pebbles and finding that special. I have pebbles that my son found and gave to me that I still have, looking for almost, now I'm going to see that this is what it is, but this is just because of mine, right? So I grew up on Lake Erie. Of course, there are fish on Lake Erie, and we would find things as children called lucky stone. We called them lucky stones. They were actually what came, I believe they were in the back part of the eye of a fish, and so of course dead fish would wash up into the sea, they would decompose completely, and then you would end up with these white pieces that must not have been connected. It must have just been a bone that was freestanding, and you could find them and they have an L on them, and I can see that. I don't say that that's what that is, but for me forever that's what that will be, is finding that lucky stone. And we would collect those, and I certainly think I have some of those somewhere. But so I love that. Love it, love it, love it. I love the new beginnings and the spiraling inward as well, upwards or inwards, of new beginnings, with the nautilus. The rock pool for reflection, that is so gorgeous. Driftwood, I just love this. I'm so pleased. Driftwood for the journey. Well, there's a whole story behind that. Same thing with like glass. I wonder if there's a, ocean glass, it comes up and it's all smoothed out because it's been tumbled. But same thing with driftwood, or those pieces, what is the story? This looks like a cut piece of wood. Was that a piece of a ship, and what journey did it take to get here? I love that. Seaweed for scattered thoughts. The conch shell for homecoming. Eternal vast. It's just ocean of eternal. I just love that. It's literally giving me heart feels. Yes, sea glass for transformation. I love that. I have a lot of sea glass. I have a jars full of sea glass that my friend who lived in Maine next to the ocean, not my friend Patrick, I know that you guys know, but my another friend of mine, she lived in Maine. I actually visiting her when I found my first tarot deck many years ago, and she would often send me sea glass, and I have some that I collected too as well, so I love that that's there. Seagull for faith. I do really love, you know, a lot of times people say a lot of negative, you know, sea rats and things like that about seagulls. There's lots of seagulls by the lake as well, and there's something special about this in regards to my son that I'm not in the space to talk about, but I love that the key word here is faith versus, you know, something more of a negative connotation, scavenger or something like that. Dune grass, we have gatherer. Sea lice. Oh my goodness, for small irritations. I do like that. I feel like we are getting, you know, we're getting some scattered thoughts, small irritations. I feel like there was a ladder, you know, is your thinking really taking you forward, or are you going sideways? Check your integrity, right? So there's secrets that can be positive or negative, shadow or light. What are you avoiding? So I do love that there are challenging cards here that are asking you to think about challenges. And so small irritations of sea lice, stingray for flow. I love stingrays. Watch Moana and you'll see I cry every time, and she's in the boat and everything is done. She's lost all sense of who she is and where she's trying to go to, and her grandmother, who has transformed into a stingray, is underneath. It just comes up, glowing stingray underneath the water, and it makes me cry every single time. Bayberry for validation. Turtle for protection. Love it. Sea heather for resilience. Mussel for tenacity. Look at that. Where they can just get in there and just hang in there. They have strong muscle. Muscle, not they have a strong muscle inside the muscle. Barnacle for an obstacle. Painful sometimes obstacle. What are you hanging on to so tightly that it's cutting your hand? There's a card in the Illuminated Earth Oracle that kind of has that sharpness too there of that obstacle. Whoops. And the last one that kind of stuck together a little bit is fog for stillness. This is gorgeous. I am so pleased. My hunt for a ocean oracle has been long. I just really haven't found something that hit the mark, and I saw this. It wasn't bad price. The shipping was high because it was coming from Australia, but I feel like the deck itself was not expensive. It has been a while, so I can't remember exactly. It was on Etsy. I'll put a link to it below. So I thought, you know, it's not terribly priced. It looks, from what I could tell, it's like, oh, I didn't see a walkthrough of it or anything, but it looks like it's going to, you know, do what I need it to do, that it's going to sort of fill that need that I just haven't found met. And it was worth it to give it a try, and I'm so glad I did. I think this is going to suit me very well. This, for me, my intention for this is around healing, certainly around grief work. Not that I only have to use it for that, but that was my intention when I was searching for it, has been around healing and grief work. And just kind of doing that difficult work. I'm just going to pull 3 cards. Truth. Fairy tales. The truth from fairy tales. The truth in story. And it's so much about our ideas of remembrance and the stories that we tell and the truths that we find from sharing those stories is so much a part of healing. Leads to salvation. I Love that. I'm just going to sit there. Obviously I could normally show more cards, but I definitely want to, oh, I'm sorry, I was still zoomed in with all that. I want to sit with that reading because obviously that's very, very special to me. And there's so many different ways in which that says a lot. But a lot of my salvation in healing and certainly dealing with grief over the loss of my son has to do with those truths and those stories that we tell. And one of the greatest joys for me is a family member or somebody that knew Michael saying, do you remember when X, like the story of we started here with the story of the sand dollars. I was with my niece and my daughter, and we were just cracking up over a particular story, a memory that we had, a random memory of Michael, and those truths, but that are becoming these stories that we tell ourselves to touch back into that connective energy are so powerful and so important. And so that hits all the feels. I'm gonna leave it there, and I hope that you enjoyed this. It was well worth the wait, and I'm really liking the feel of it. I love the cards that are there. I like that we have the keyword on the card, so you can just do your own thing, but you can sink into her story or go right into a message. And she seems to ask a lot of questions in the message to kind of get you thinking. So I think whilst tiny, I feel like this may be mighty in terms of kind of adding an extra layer in. So I am excited to sink into this, and I hope that you enjoyed this little walkthrough.